Good morning. Oh, welcome to the week. Is it the last full week that we have? It's a good feeling. All right, so today we're talking about substitution 7.2. So the basic idea behind this chapter is that we are thinking about two lines like this, and we're trying to figure out where they cross. And one way to figure out where they cross is to graph them, which is what we did last time. And then there are two other ways to figure out where they cross, and that both of those use algebra instead of graphing. So one method is called substitution, and that's where you take the two equations, and basically we're going to take part of one and substitute it or put it inside a different equation and then solve it. So throughout this process and through when we're doing notes tomorrow, I'm going to make notes like steps for substitution, but then I'm also going to do a problem at the exact same time and label it as such, and then we'll do a few more problems and that'll be it. Shouldn't be that crazy of an assignment either, 4 problems, but these do take a little while. So, alright, so go ahead and catch up. If you need to pause the video, pause the video. You should write in your notes. This is 7.2, substitution. Today's 518. Write down the problem, which is y equals 4x plus 11 and 3x minus y equals negative 7. And then we've got steps for substitution over here. So here's the first step for substitution. If I'm going too fast for you, then stop the video. So the first step is to solve one equation for one variable. Sometimes you have to move stuff around to make that happen, and sometimes it's already done for you. So let's take a look over here. Do you see how this top equation says y equals stuff? So that's what we're trying to make it look like. We're trying to make it look either like y equals or x equals so that we can substitute the problem into the other. And remember, what we're trying to find is where these two lines cross, that point of intersection. So because this says y equals this stuff, this junk, right here, we're going to plug that stuff, which is, so y is the same thing as 4x plus 11. So we're going to plug that stuff in right here, in for that y. And then we'll only have x's in the equation. So the second step is to plug or substitute that equation into the other equation. So step 1 was like right here. Sometimes you have to like move stuff around, which is what we'll do in the next problem to make that happen, but this time it already said y equals. So for number 2, I'm going to take that second equation, but instead of writing y, I'm going to write 4x plus 11. So 3x minus 4x plus 11 equals negative 7. You might want to, on the first couple problems of your homework, follow these steps, like even label them with the different parts, and then loosen up later when you get used to it. Okay, the third step, which I had already started, my bad, is to solve for the unknown variable. I say the unknown variable because sometimes it's going to be x and sometimes it's going to be y. This time it'll be x because you see how there's only x's left. So we know that we're solving for x. So this minus, this is a really important example, which is why I picked this one. This minus is on the outside of this parentheses, and remember that's kind of like a negative 1 being out there. So you got to distribute that negative 1 to both of them or subtract both of them. So that makes negative 1 times 4 is negative 4x and then a negative 11. And if it makes, you can always do plus a negative if that makes more sense to you. Equals negative 7. All right, so now what I'm going to do is clean up the left side by combining the x's. This is really good practice with solving basic equations. So positive 3 and negative 4 makes negative 1x. And then to get rid of the minus 11, you add 11 to both sides. So now I've got negative 1x equals 4. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by negative 1, so x equals 4. Nice. So now I know what x equals. And that point where they cross, I know what the x is. But I don't know the y yet. So now I'm going to plug that answer into one of the original equations. And solve for the other variable. Okay. So let's see, this was step 3 where I was solving it. So now it's step 4. So mathematicians are lazy, which means that you should plug this into the equation that you think looks easiest up here. I think the top one looks easier, so I'm going to choose that y equals 4x plus 11 up there. And I'm going to plug in 4 for x. So y equals 4 times 4 plus 11. So, oops, I missed something. I missed a negative right there. None of you were in class to catch me. I'm so used to you guys catching mistakes like that. My bad. So it should have been 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. Okay, so now if I plug in negative 4 in for x, that's negative 16 plus 11, which is negative 5, and that's y. So now I've got x and y. Now, you have to remember that the point of this is to find out where two lines cross. And two lines cross either not at all, or sometimes they happen to be the same line. So really the answer is going to be just one answer, or it's going to be no solution, or sometimes infinite solutions. But we're going to just worry about the one answer and the no solution for today. So the x is negative 4, and the y is negative 5. So the final answer looks like a point. So write your answer as a point. Okay. There we go. Now normally it doesn't take that long because I talked a lot and wrote down instructions at the same time, but this is a really good shot here, or a screenshot kind of explaining exactly what substitution is like. So we're going to try 2 more and give you some more experience, but I'm not going to write out the steps again, thank goodness. Okay, I'm going to start this one with you, and then you're going to pause the video and finish it yourself. So, let's try example 2. Alright, so I'm going to be kind of going back and forth here between the directions. So the first step says solve one equation for one variable. So I basically need to get something by itself, and it doesn't already look that way. Remember in number 1 it already said y equals, but this one it doesn't say x equals or y equals. But I'm a mathematician, which means I'm lazy, which means I'm going to pick the easiest thing to solve for right now. I think the easiest thing to solve for right now is this x right here, because I can just move that 4y onto the other side, and then get it by itself. Everything else I'm going to have to divide by something too, and then I probably get fractions, and that's messy and gross. So for step 1, I'm just going to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 4y from both sides. So I get x equals 18 minus 4y. Okay,